The new NFL season is off to a wild start. Detroit pulled off a stunning upset over Kansas City last night, delivering a major blow to the defending Super Bowl champions. It's the first Week 1 win for the Lions since 2017. So joining me now to talk a little bit more about last night's game is Mark Maske. He is an NFL reporter for the Washington Post. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to talk to you earlier, but then all this Trump news got in the way. Let's get down to this business. What happened last night? I mean, was this just like an opening night jitters? And, you know, does the first game set the tone for the season?
I think, Anne-Marie, in the case of the Lions, it certainly can. I mean, we saw them do some good things at the end of last season, and there were sort of some higher hopes for the Lions going into this season that they can be at least a playoff team. So I think from the Lions' perspective, we saw good things. We saw they are a team that's competitive with the Super Bowl champions, the defending Super Bowl champs. They go in a very tough place to play and come away with the win. Now, from the Chiefs' perspective, I think you do have to be very cautious not to come to conclusions. This was a diminished version of the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, their great tight end, did not play because of a knee injury suffered in practice Tuesday. Chris Jones, one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire NFL, he didn't play. He's still in a contract dispute with the team and holding out. So the Chiefs will be better, and we've seen, not to worry too much about the Chiefs in the last few years, even when they have some issues early. But I think there were some things from the Chiefs' perspective to worry about. I mean, we saw some real issues at wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes can cover for a great many flaws and a great many things, but he wasn't able to cover for this last night. We saw a lot of drop passes. Kadarius Toney had some real issues. So I think if you're looking at the Chiefs, you have to look at those issues at wide receiver. But then also it's a long season. 4 months from now, you would have to figure that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid will find a way to have the Chiefs right back in the mix of contending teams for another Super Bowl.
Okay, so aside from them, or maybe including them, what are some of the games that fans should be circling on their calendar this season?
You know, I think a lot of people are, in the very near term, a lot of people are looking forward to Monday night. Aaron Rodgers makes his regular season debut with the Jets. They face the Bills in a game up in MetLife Stadium. That's a game that a lot of people will have a lot of interest in. I'm sure that will draw a huge viewership number. And then looking forward, you have the Chiefs and the Jets play each other. You have Mahomes against Rodgers in very early October. You get the Super Bowl rematch, the Eagles and the Chiefs in November. And then in December, you get the rematch of both of the conference championship games. You get the 49ers and the Eagles, and you get the Bengals and the Chiefs both in December. So that's a long way to look ahead, but there certainly are a number of games where you're going to see the top teams in the league going against each other.
You got to start telling people now, like when not to schedule brunch or whatever the heck they want to do on these days. It's not going to happen. You're not showing up. What teams in the AFC and the NFC do you have your eye on as the top contenders? I know it just started, but we got to ask this question for the Super Bowl.
To me, when you look at the NFC, it's a much easier question. I have a hard time seeing anyone overtaking the Eagles and the 49ers as the top two contenders. We saw them in the NFC Championship game last year. Can the Cowboys break in and be in that mix? Some people think so, but I have a hard time, if those two teams remain healthy, I have a hard time seeing the NFC Super Bowl team not being one of those two between Philadelphia and San Francisco. It's a much tougher question in the AFC. It's very top loaded in the AFC. You have a lot of teams that you can make a realistic case for probably about a half dozen teams being the Super Bowl team from the AFC. Now, certainly you're going to have the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Bills. They have been there in the last few years. They are certainly going to be in the mix again. But when you broaden that out a bit, Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets. That move is designed to make them a Super Bowl team. Will it work out or not? We'll have to see. You have Lamar Jackson. If he can stay healthy again with the Ravens get back into that mix. You have a rising team in Jacksonville with the Jaguars. So, you can certainly broaden it out. You can make a case for a lot more teams in the AFC than you can in the NFC. But we'll just have to see. It's a long season. There's the things that you think now very often don't turn out to be the way that they happen come December. But again, I do think the AFC is the one where you can make a case for a lot more teams to be a Super Bowl quality team.
So I was going to ask you about some of these really high-paid quarterbacks that we're all watching, because I think Jalen Hurts was the highest-paid quarterback for like a half a second, and then now other people have surpassed him. But instead, because we don't have a lot of time, I want to ask you about the rookie that is likely to make the best first impression in the league.
I would think, in terms of the rookies, everyone's going to be watching the quarterbacks. You're going to be watching Bryce Young in Carolina, C.J. Stroud in Houston, Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. But that's more of a longer term proposition. In terms of in the shorter term, at a position where you can have an immediate impact at running back, I think Bijan Robinson in Atlanta has a chance to be that person. Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions, we saw him in sort of smaller doses last night, and maybe a wide receiver like Zay Flowers in Baltimore. So those are some of the guys where I think because of circumstances, we may see more of an impact than maybe those prominent young quarterbacks where it's going to be sort of a longer term growth process.
All right, Mark, great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie.